Sahana vavatu Sahanau bhunattu Sahaviryam karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samadana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Geetamritam Mahata Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansa Chauramartanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum.
Thank you, Anjali ji, for the sublime invocation. She is Vice President of the Chinmaya Mission, Mumbai. She has been a Sevika for 9 years and conducts 2 study classes in Mumbai. She will now share her immense knowledge of Chapter 4, Jnana Karma Sanyasa Yoga with us. Over to you, Anjali ji.
Hari Om and salutations to everyone. In the last chapter, Lord Krishna iterated on the concept of Karma Yoga. Arjuna, being of a thinking mind, was hesitant to accept it. So chapter 4 has Sri Krishna telling Arjuna that it isn't something new that he has made up, but it is from the ancient scriptures, the Vedas. We also saw how by doing Karma Yoga with the right understanding and the right attitude, we are able to renounce doership to purity of mind, and in such a mind, pure mind, self-knowledge arises. In this chapter, we will see how to perform action in such a way that the doer is also dissolved. Like Chandni mentioned, this chapter is known as Jnana Karma Sanyasa Yoga, the path of renunciation of action in knowledge. And it is the transition between Karma Yoga and meditation which is to follow. The chapter begins with Sri Krishna telling Arjuna that he has taught this imperishable knowledge of the self to Vivaswan, Lord's son, who in turn taught it to Manu, who passed it on to Ikshvaku, and was then passed down in succession through a lineage. So this knowledge is not new, created just now by his own thinking, but passed down through a glorious parampara. This knowledge has been around since the beginning of creation. He mentions Lord's Son because creation begins with and is sustained by the Son. This knowledge is eternal and embedded in creation. And since it is in creation and creation is universal, the knowledge is also universal. Also, it is interesting to see here the choice of names used. Vivaswan, Manu, and Ikshvaku. They were all Kshatriyas. So Arjuna could easily relate to these names being of Kshatriya himself. The Guru Shishya parampara is one of the great glories of our Sanatan Dharma. where the knowledge is passed down from the teacher to the, and each generation of masters experimented, experienced, validated, verified, and mastered this knowledge, and only then taught it to their disciples. It was Ved Vyasji who compiled all the knowledge and presented it in a systematic way. Now, this knowledge is not some ordinary knowledge. It is a revelation. Like how Archimedes' principle was revealed to Archimedes, the law of gravity was revealed to Newton. This revelation happens because of the tuning of the mind. When great minds think and contemplate on a subject that they are in search of, then their minds get tuned up and the knowledge is revealed. So it is to these great rishis that the Vedas. So the knowledge is not a human creation. It is revealed only to those who are pure in mind. It is not ordinary information which is being given out, because it is a subjective knowledge which is being experienced. And since it has come down through a lineage, the knowledge is also time tested. In the past, we have seen that whenever there has been a decline in culture, and happens when false notions, confusing ideologies, wrong practices cover this knowledge, then a great visionary leader, a master, manifests to revive the culture. And then the traditional knowledge is repackaged to suit the times. Swami Vivekananda was one such master. And then, of course, our Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji. This is known as spiritual renaissance. We in India are forever grateful and indebted to this lineage that brings this eternal knowledge down to us. Now, when we say knowledge gets lost or covered, knowledge per se doesn't get lost. It's just that its demand gets reduced. And then a Mahatma comes, revives the knowledge, and makes it palatable to the current mindset. Now, this effort and practice of many generations that is spent in perfecting this knowledge, which they have passed on out of compassion through generations, can all be lost by the indifference or apathy of a single generation. Indian culture and spiritual knowledge are the most ancient and have survived and thrived in spite of many challenges from within and without. And this is only because of its fabulous ability to adapt to the changing times without losing its core essence, and of course being kept alive by the Guru Shishya parampara. Now, why does this culture go through this decadence? Why do people not want to live these values? Because the mind gets weak, durbal. The mind doesn't know its own inner strength and very easily gets victimized. It loses focus. What happens then? This leads to it being ajitendriyaha. Such a person has no control over his senses and indulges in worldly things. Both these qualities then make me unadhikarinaha, unqualified for spirituality. So to put it very simply, the demand for spirituality is reduced because the senses are extroverted, all the time reveling in sense objects. So as seekers, it is our responsibility and duty to keep this knowledge alive. We should not allow the culture to degenerate. We have a responsibility not only to ourselves and our self-evolution, but also to our glorious culture as well. So when the Lord said that he gave this knowledge to the sun and Manu, a question naturally comes up. How can Sri Krishna be the first guru? He came much later than Lord Vivaswan and Manu. It is said the Lord too takes many births. As Sri Krishna, he has appeared later, but as the eternal Lord, he is the first guru, Adi Guru. So there are two important aspects to Sanatana Dharma. One is the incarnate Lord, which is known as Avatar, and a reincarnation of the individual known as Punarjanma. So now let us see the concept of the many births of the Lord known as Avatar. For individuals like us, our karmas determine the time, place, and form of birth. We have no choice in the matter. The Lord, on the other hand, incarnates again and again. Sambhavami yuge yuge. But he is not compelled by any karmas. He has the choice of what time, place, and form to take. And he has total control over it. This brings us to another question. How can infinite Nirgun, Nirakar Lord take a form? He is formless. The Lord who can create the entire universe of names and forms, why can't he take a form? What's stopping him from taking a form? He can take any form, any attribute. Actually, every form that we see around us is actually the formless Lord alone. To simplify it, water is the form of formless hydrogen and oxygen. When water is heated, it becomes vapor, formless. Our entire journey is from form to formless. In a log of wood, fire is unmanifest. And manifest fire is very different from unmanifest fire. Similarly, with the example of butter being unmanifest in milk. So the Lord pervades the whole world in an unmanifest form. And as an avatar, he manifests in a particular form. It is believed that the Lord assumes a special form to accomplish his work. The Lord comes down from his infinite formless nature and appears in a divine form and uplifts us. Just like how a man goes down to save a drowning man from a well or a river, so even the Lord, he assumes a human form. He acts like us. He lives amongst us, but he remains ever abiding in his true nature. All his acts are then a leela, which bring about a lot of love and devotion among the devotees. All of Sri Krishna's actions as a child and even later, all his leelas are a source of joy and devotion to us even today. We revel in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It tells n number of stories. When does the Lord come? In verse 7, the Lord says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamayam. Whenever there is a decay of righteousness, O Bharata, and a rise of unrighteousness, then I manifest myself. And what does he do? In verse 8, he says, Paritranaya sadhunam ayacha dushkritam dharma sansthapanatharya sambhavami yuge yuge. For the protection of the good, for the destruction of the evil, and for the establishment of righteousness, I am born in every age. Just like a traffic constable is sufficient to clear a traffic jam, and a police chief is called in when there is a riot. But when there is a major calamity, the prime minister. Similarly, in times of great crisis, when adharma increases and dharma is not allowed to express, that is when the Lord incarnates out of sheer compassion for his devotees to both protect them, protect dharma, and to eliminate adharma. Before we proceed, let us quickly understand what is dharma. We'll see three different definitions so that we get an overview of what dharma is, to understand why the Lord took an avatar. So is dharma some particular actions or some special rituals? Is it only morality and speaking the truth? Or is it some religion or cult? According to the Shastras, one definition is that which supports, integrates, unites, and sustains the individual and society is called dharma. And on the other hand, that which divides and causes conflict is adharma. A simple example of this is love, which is dharma, and hate, which is adharma. Love unites, binds, holds people and things together. Hate divides, disintegrates. Selflessness is the rhythm of the universe. Everything in nature functions selflessly. Trees give fruit and shade to us irrespective. The sun shines irrespective. We saw Ritika speak about this yesterday. In being selfish, we break this rhythm. We disturb the rhythm. And this disturbance is adharma. Another definition of dharma, which we saw in our first talk by Shruti, is the inherent nature of a thing without which that thing cannot exist, is its essential dharma. The essential nature of sugar is sweetness. Without sweetness, sugar cannot be called sugar. So sweetness is the dharma of sugar. To abide in our essential nature of Sat, Chit, and Anand is dharma. And to turn away from it is adharma. The third definition of dharma, the laws which govern nature, society, and people. They can be in the form of scriptural injunctions or governmental laws, duties, ethics, morals, norms, etc. So to follow them is dharma, and not to follow them is adharma. Adharma is said to increase when there is less respect for the scriptures and people value material gains more than spiritual growth. This results in one not performing their duties, not following the righteous way. Then values drop. Pretty much what we are seeing happening around us today. These days, a man who does the work for which he has been bribed is considered to be honest. That he actually did the work for which he was bribed. That is the level of honesty today. Dharma declines when the vision of division sets in. You and me. Separateness. Selfishness increases. There is more I and mine in our thinking. To increase the vision of oneness, selflessness, to spread the scriptural knowledge, to protect those who are practicing dharma is dharma sanstapana. It does not mean starting a new organization or converting people. The Lord comes to inspire in people the vision of oneness, which leads to love for all, which in turn results in right values and duties. Actually, the main evil is the wickedness in the heart. When one is established in dharma, he is then free and pure and is able to attain the realize the self. So we need to introspect and check which values we follow without compromise. No compromise. Because when values are lived, they become virtues. There is a very famous quotation that says, those who don't stand for anything will fall for anything. Sorry, will fall for everything. Those who don't stand for anything will fall for everything. This brings us to another question of why do we worship his incarnations and not the infinite formless Lord himself? That is because we are body identified. We relate to forms rather than the formless. We need to conceptualize everything. Let us try something. Suppose I say apple. What comes to your mind? The form of an apple, and that too a red apple. We think in forms, in pictures. So how can we then worship a formless God? We need a form to understand, to comprehend, to love and worship the Lord in an enchanting form then becomes very easy and our minds can relate to it. Devotion arises. To something formless, there can be no devotion. I personally find it very difficult. Without a form, how do I get any emotion? Because the Lord incarnates in various forms, we have the option of choosing a form based on our likes, our inclinations, and our interests. We can also absorb our mind in one of his very many names, Nama, his forms, Rupa, his qualities, Guna, his sports, Leelas, his abodes, Dhamma. For example, the celebration Janmashtami is the celebration of the birth of Sri Krishna, which has become such a great cultural and spiritual experience. Also, daily worship of puja, japa, prayer, meditation on the form of our choice gives us great solace and strength and leads to purifying our minds and then, of course, further on to contemplation. I know it has given me great support and strength to speak in this Geeta relay Yagna. If I didn't have my Lord, I don't think I would have been able to do it. Many find it difficult to choose a form from the very many. To solve this issue, the Lord says in verse 11, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sthataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. The Lord himself says that whatever be the form, whatever be the attitude or the relationship we have with him, whatever be the path that we follow or the purpose of our worship, he accepts and reciprocates in the same way. Some worship Ram or Krishna or Shiva. Some consider him as their son, father, brother, friend. Some follow the path of devotion, some the path of knowledge. Some seek him for spiritual, some for material gains. He says he will bless us all with whatever our desire is. So again, it is my choice. I can ask for material stuff or I can ask for self-knowledge. Now, what if, like all of us, we have grown up in a city in this modern world? I may not be able to relate to Sri Krishna in his dhoti with cows around him. I can't relate to that. Then what? I am free to visualize him in blue shirt and a yellow t-shirt. And if I worship that form with devotion and single-pointedness, there is nothing to prevent the Lord from manifesting in that form with blue jeans and a yellow t-shirt for me. And in this way, my faith and devotion in him increases. Boy came home and told his mother that he helped an elderly lady to cross the road. The mother was very happy that my child has got good values and sanskars. So she said, she must have blessed you. The boy said, no, she was cursing me. The mother was very surprised. She said, why? The boy said, she did not want to cross the road. Unlike the boy, Bhagwan is very non-interfering. He comes forward to help only when asked. He gives to people what they ask for and what they deserve only when asked. He does not give even moksha when not desired. So if we say that he is all seeing, he knows, so he should help on his own, he is not going to help on his own until we go and surrender to him, until we ask him for help. So what is the right time for the Lord to come? Who decides this? He alone. He comes by his free will. We saw earlier he comes to establish dharma and to remove adharma. Vinashaya cha dushkrita. So what is meant by this destruction of evil? First is where the cause of evil is destroyed. The person realizes his mistakes and genuinely repents and changes for the good. Valmiki, Angulimal are perfect examples of this, where a physical destruction of the individual is not required. The second is when a physical destruction becomes absolutely necessary after all peaceful methods have been exhausted, and it is not possible to destroy the evilness within. For example, Duryodhan, Ravan, comes. All attempts at peace were rejected by them. Okay, so the Lord takes an avatar. How does it benefit me? What is the benefit for me for believing in an avatar? Firstly, the form helps us to have an altar of surrender and devotion. It helps me develop faith in the higher and have the right vision, the vision of seeing the Lord everywhere and in everything. I then come to understand that that Lord that I have faith in is that transcendental reality, and I am that reality. He and I are one. Heavy statement, but true. So to summarize this part about Avatarvad, the Lord takes a form with full control of Maya and knowledge of his true self. He does so out of his own will and to establish dharma and to destroy adharma. His birth and actions are all divine, and he gives joy and bliss to all. Whereas the jiva, when he takes a form, is controlled by Maya. His birth is compelled by vasanas and karmas. The purpose of his birth is to exhaust vasanas and evolve, which very rarely happens. And he gives only limited pleasure to his fellow beings. So since this very rarely happens that we want to exhaust our vasanas and we want to evolve, what makes us seek either the higher or the lower? This is based on our spiritual strength, which in turn is dictated by our extroverted or introverted nature. The Lord takes this further by saying, men of extroverted nature can be divided into 4 types based on the differences of their mind intellectual texture. This brings us to the most controversial belief of the Sanatana Dharma, the caste system, which has been so misunderstood that it has caused deep harm. The world that we see around us has a lot of variety and multiplicity. And it has been from very early times, man has had the need to classify the world of objects and beings in various ways. So you have botany that studies and classifies plants. You have zoology that studies and classifies animals, for example. All classifications are made on some basis: age, type, color, characteristics, whatever. Similarly, the varna system or the caste system is a classification of humans based on the qualities of the mind, guna, and the work that the person does, karma. This is not, and I repeat, this is not based on birth, but by guna and karma. So when we see the 4 main classifications of humans into Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, we need to see how the guna karmas go towards making these distinctions. So a Brahmana will be predominantly sattva guna with some amount of rajas and a very little amount of tamas. So from the guna standpoint, such people will be peace-loving, knowledge-oriented, self-controlled, far-sighted. And from the karma standpoint, they are the thinkers, visionaries, philosophers, researchers, scholars, policymakers, teachers that we see in society around us. A Kshatriya will be predominantly Rajoguna, about 60% roughly, with about 30% Sattva and 10% Tamas. So from the Guna standpoint, these people are dynamic, fearless, go-getters, good leaders. So where we see them in society, they are rulers, administrators, law enforcers, defenders, the ones who get things done. A Vaishya will also be predominantly Rajoguna, same about 60%, with about 30% of Tamas and 10% of Sattva. Such people are very resourceful, active, profit-seeking. And as per their actions, they will form the business strata who mobilize resources, create wealth, trade, and transact. A Shudra will be predominantly Tamoguna, about 60%, with about 30% Rajas and 10% Sattva. Such people are good followers and helpers. They form the workers of society, the laborers. Now, these proportions are just rough approximations and not to be taken literally. It is just to understand that all 4 categories have all 3 gunas to a lesser or a greater extent. And being based on the qualities of the mind, the Brahmana will be highly selfless on the one end of the spectrum, and the Shudra will be highly self-centered on the other. Let's listen to Pujya Gurudev speaking on the Varna system.
So the highest type of tendencies are called Sattvic. The other is called Rajasic, and the basest is called Tamasic. These are 2 technical terms. Then the Sankhya philosophers, who consider these 3 gunas, they said these gunas have got distinct color of personality. Sattva is white in color, Rajas is red in color, and the tamas, the basest, is black in color. Now, every one of you have got all the three. These three are the fundamental ingredients of a personality. All the three put together is a human personality. So even the highest saint or sage also have got rajas and tamas. The lowest and the basest criminal also has got now and then sattvic and rajasic. He loves his wife and children. All the three. Every human being has got all the three. Now if you have got three colors, there can be a permutation combination of four distinct colors. Supremely sattvic, the saints and sages and prophets and masters. Rajasic, active and dynamic, with sattva. The true leaders of mankind, inspired by high ideal, sense of duty, and yet he is not satisfied by merely studying the scriptures and going to a jungle and sit down under a tree. No! He feels that he has got a responsibility to see that everybody does keep law and order, isn't it? Sense of justice. Kshatriyas. The traders, commerce, men of commerce, is as dynamic as the politician. 18 hours a day they will work. But the difference is they are functioning not for the ideals. They are functioning with a dash of tamas. Isn't it? Why the man of commerce work 18 hours a day, businessmen, to earn money? What do you want the money? Because my house must be slightly taller than all other houses. They are also working hard. And are they not serving the society? Yes, as a byproduct. If we can avoid it, even. But sometimes it's not possible, and therefore, by the way, okay. But what his intention is only to earn more and more money in order to live a luxurious way. The last one is the tamasic, labor class. Everywhere around the world, the labor class is tamasic. If they get a chance, they will sit down. When they start working, it's all over the world. It's their nature. You have to get work out of them. They have no they have only bronze and not brains. That's four colors. It's not in India. It is a division of the entire humanity, human personality. Bhagavan says that there are. It is a fact in life. There are four types of personalities in the world. And how did you make it the four types? Guna, karma, vibhagasha. Not that a Brahmin's son is a Brahmin. A doctor's son need not be a doctor. An engineer's son need not be an engineer. He can be a dull idiot, a drug addict. It's not by birth. Then, guna, karma. The quality of his vasanas and tendencies, guna, sattvic, rajasic or tamasic, or what combination they are. And karma. Don't say that I am very sattvic, very spiritual, but all your actions are unspiritual. Savji, that is only externally I am indulging in sense objects. But spiritual, I am very spiritual. That is only in America. Guna karma vibhagasha, at the basis of the tendencies and thoughts and ideals that you keep in your mind and the performance with which you are doing it. It is on the basis of these two that these four types have been created.
So all human beings are equal in that sense. We are all capable of doing something, but everyone cannot do everything. So it is only logical that a person should do only that which he is good at and in which he is efficient. When people take to professions based on natural inclinations, work happens naturally, effortlessly, and the person is happy. This is known as doing one's own swadharma. If the karmas do not match the gunas and one works, there will be frustration, tension, anxiety, stress. This is known as doing paradharma. That is why when we see people who are forced to do something that they don't have an aptitude for, no inclination for, so when the four varnas do their own work for the common good, the family, the society, the nation, or even an organization, all prosper. This is called dharma. And this is the spirit of selfless performance of one's own duties for the sake of common good is called Yagna spirit. It is said that in our body, the head is which perceives, thinks, decides, and guides. The arms and the hands are the kshatriyas that defend, attack, and execute the work. The stomach digests, the thighs and other mid-body portions store fat and grow with the nutrition they receive are the vaishyas. The legs and the feet are the shudras, as they carry the weight of the body and transport the body to wherever it wants to go. Each part has its own function and importance. There is no thing of jobs or duties. The legs cannot think, nor can the head move on its own. And yet, no part is considered superior or inferior. Like Gurudev said, a child born into a Brahmana family cannot be called a true Brahmana if he does not have the qualities or inclination of the Brahmana gunas. This system has got so warped today, it has degenerated into being based on birth. So guna and karma are the basis for the varna system and not birth. Now, a system will work well only if people rightly and follow it meticulously. It will then bring harmony, growth, and prosperity. The misunderstanding and misuse of the varna system is what has caused detriment to everyone. Now, earlier I mentioned the spirit of selfless performance of one's own duties for the sake of the common good being called Yagna spirit. So what is a Yagna? Traditionally, a Yagna is when the community got together to pray for a common cause. The gods were invoked by offering oblations. The entire community put in efforts for the preparation of the Yagna. The Yagna Shala, the Pandal, the Havan Kund, the offering, the Bhosad, everything. And since it was a collective effort, the results were also shared among all. A Yagna is the spirit of working together in a cooperative endeavor, working together for a common cause. It is also a spiritual discipline to lift oneself. It is a sacrifice where one gives up the lower for the higher versus a compromise where one gives up the higher. This Geeta relay Yagna is also a Yagna. We have all worked together for the common cause of the spread of the knowledge, and each one has done his part. So if you look at the olden times, the ritualistic fire, there was a Yagna where the fire was. There was a worshipper, the Yajman, who offered oblations, the Havis, into the fire Agni, with using a wooden ladle called Arpana, and they prayed to the Lord to attain a particular result, a Yagna Phala. So for the ordinary seeker, the ordinary worshipper, each entity is different. The yajman is different from the yagna, from the ladle, the offerings, etc. But for a realized master who has experienced the oneness with Brahman, everything is Brahman. This is seen in verse 24, which is chanted generally before meals. Brahmarpanam Brahma, Brahmagnau Brahmana Hutam, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Brahman is the oblation. Brahman is the clarified butter and so on that constitute the offerings. By Brahman, the oblations are poured into the fire, which is Brahman, and Brahman verily shall be reached by him who sees Brahman in all actions. Deity invoked, the fire in which the offerings are poured in, the material things that constitute the offerings, and the individual who is performing the yagna are all Brahman. To be able to see this oneness is the goal of human birth. With this kind of vision, if every action we do, it will be a yagna. To establish dharma, dharma samsthapna tharya is this, to enable all to see this oneness. Pointing to a mango tree, someone once asked Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda what it was. He replied, "This is Brahman in the form of a mango tree." Tapovan Maharaj used to say that Ganga was Brahman in a liquid form. To be able to do this, to be able to see this oneness, one has to be an adhikar, a qualified person. To gain the knowledge of, I must first have gone through some preliminary study of biology and anatomy in order to gain some higher knowledge of medicine, right? So what can we do which will help us purify ourselves to be ready for the knowledge of the self? Spiritual practices or sadhanas are a means to gain mental purity, clarity, and subtlety of the intellect. In our culture, we have very many such sadhanas prescribed. Puja, japa, dana, vrata, tapa, lots of them are there. But for maximum benefit, they should be learned and practiced in the correct way. They should be practiced regularly with an alert and diligent mind. And in time, it should become a way of life for us rather than a chore to be done. There are a number of people who, when they have to fast for the whole day, they go to the movies so that their mind is distracted. This is not the purpose of a fast. One is supposed to be on eating so that the digestive energies can be channelized for prayer and meditation. A woodcutter was chopping a tree with a blunt axe for a long time without any success, obviously. So when asked, "Why don't you sharpen that axe?" he replied, "Don't you see how busy I am? I have no time to sharpen the axe." With a dull and distracted mind, we cannot achieve much. We need to take a break and sharpen our intellect, empower ourselves with some spiritual practice. So our Shastras, our masters, have prescribed 12 types of Yagnas, spiritual sadhanas, that when performed will empower us to gain self-knowledge. And these are covered in verses 25 to 30. I'll go through them briefly. The first is Devaya. This involves appreciating the presiding deities like Indra and Varun and offering certain ahutis into the fire and chanting mantras appropriately. The second is Brahma Yagna. This involves offering of oneself into the fire of the supreme truth, Brahman. Not physically, please, but the main offering is the ego, the false notion that I am the body, mind and intellect, our ignorance. And to do this, one has to continuously contemplate on the truth, using the Mahavakyas or pointers, which then help us to drop the false identification. In fact, all the other yagnas are to prepare us for this yagna. This is the highest yagna that one can perform because our ego is being offered. The next one is Indriya Yagna. Here, various sense objects are offered into the fire of self-control. This means we have to control our sense intake and to take in only what is sattvic, take it in as an act of worship. For example, the eyes feast on the glorious form of the Lord, or the ears listen to music that quieten the mind. It's like Gandhiji's 3 monkeys. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And in the language of assertion, it is hear, see, and speak only that which is auspicious. Spirituality does not say that one should not enjoy, but one should not give in to the demands of the senses. Enjoy, be a master and not a slave of the senses. Whatever makes me dependent, I should drop it. We saw this in Pujya Gurudev's video yesterday. The next one is Sanyam Yagna. This is control over the mind, where we offer all the sense organs of perception and action and all dependencies into the fire of self-control. This self-control is different from the earlier one. This one is internal, whereas the Indriya Yagna was an external one of self-control. The next one, Atma Sanyam Yoga. This is the practice of restraint through knowledge, where one practices moderation in everything. All extremes in work and enjoyment are offered into the fire of willpower and right understanding. Dravya Yagna. This involves offering of wealth in terms of time, money, any physical, emotional, or intellectual asset that we may have into the fire of generosity. This results in detachment and a tremendous joy in giving. Dhan, if you see, is an integral part of our culture. Whenever we share with the totality, it comes back to us in multiples. Dhan should be done with the attitude of gratitude. Thank the person we are giving for giving us the opportunity to serve. If there's no one to give, who would we be doing a dhan to? It should be done with the bhavna that I'm just an instrument. And the needy is considered as the form of the Lord himself. Daridra Narayan. This dhan, doing charity, our possessiveness is burnt. I'm happy to give. If there is a dependency, there will be pain and hesitation. Slowly we train ourselves to give up so that at the time of death, giving up also becomes easy. Tapo Yagna, where we offer our comforts and wanderings of the mind, our attachments into the fire of concentration. This yagna is necessary to push us out of our comfort zones. Living an austere and simple life or performing special austerities like fasting are spiritual practices which help us build this endurance and self-control and integrate our mind and intellect. This can be done by denying ourselves something we are attached to and to do something which is good for us, but we don't do. For example, if I'm attached to watching TV till late at night, I stop doing it. I should get up early in the morning for a walk or exercise, and I don't normally do it. So now I push myself to do it. This is Tapo Yagna. Next is Yoga Yagna. This path refers to the Ashtanga Yoga, the eightfold path of Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. Generally, we know yoga to be a practice of postures and exercises, but actually it's a spiritual practice that can lead us to the highest realization if we practice it correctly and regularly. Then comes Swadhyaya Yagna, where worldly thoughts and our ignorance is offered into the fire of study and introspection. This can be understood as the spiritual practice of studying the scriptures, Swadhyaya, or self-introspection. We should study the scriptures because it gives a scientific understanding and a holistic view of life. It is a time tested with complete rationale of what we go through, why we go through it, and the various obstacles that can come on the path. The study of the scriptures leads us to a better understanding of ourselves, from where we have come and where we have to go. In fact, this is the only yagna for the intellect. All the other yagnas are for the body and the mind. Jnana Yagna. Again, this is the offering of our avidya and ignorance into the fire of Shravan, Manan, and Nididya. The spiritual practice of understanding the scriptures through listening to discourses, self-study in groups. All the other 9 yagnas that we have seen are to prepare the mind to do this listening, thinking, and contemplation. Pranayam Yagna. This is the offering of the breaths, the inhalation, exhalation, and holding into the fire of ratio and rhythm. This practice needs to be done under the guidance of an experienced teacher. It brings about calmness of the mind. By controlling the pranas, the mind gets controlled. Whenever we are angry, aren't we told to take 10 deep breaths? Control the pranas, the mind is also calmer. The last one is Ahar Yagna, where the false, wrong eating habits are offered into the fire of a healthy lifestyle. This means to offer the right food in the right quantity at the right time to the digestive fire. Controlled eating by itself then becomes a spiritual practice when done as an offering. These 12 yagnas also help us to repay our debts to society, the environment, our ancestors, gurus, and they cover all the 4 aspects of our personality: physical, mental, intellectual, and spiritual. They prepare our minds for knowledge, which leads us to self-realization. Now comes the question of where this knowledge from and how do we get it? A devotee asked Puja Gurudev, why do we need a guru? Can we not get the knowledge from the books? Gurudev replied, why don't you ask the book this question? We definitely need the presence of a guru. It's absolutely vital. The meeting of a sincere seeker and his guru happens through divine invention. No one can go guru shopping. Also, since this knowledge is very subtle, it can be got only by a qualified student who approaches the guru with the right attitude. And this right attitude is explained in verse 34. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnani nastatva darshinaha. Know that by long prostration, by question and service, the wise who have realized the truth will instruct you in that knowledge. So there are 3 acts required to approach the guru. Falling prostrate, though this means to fall at the feet of the guru as in Dandvat Pranam. This signifies total surrender and complete humility. Without humility, one cannot gain anything. A proud person is too full of himself to learn anything. Second, serving the guru, seva. Readiness to serve the guru indicates love and respect for the guru and a readiness to do what he says. The purpose of serving is also to tune our mind with the guru's mind so that the transfer of knowledge happens exactly the way the guru gives it, without any gaps. And thirdly, asking questions, pariprashna. Asking indicates an inquiring mind and a thirst for knowledge. One should not ask questions out of idle curiosity or about worldly knowledge or to check how much the guru knows. Questions should be based on who am I? What is my purpose? What is my goal of life? And how can I attain liberation? Now, to practice all these 12 yagnas, the most important ingredient is faith, Shraddha. What is faith? Gurudev says, faith is defined as belief reinforced with conviction. You don't need to believe blindly. Get convinced about it first. Inquire into the belief. And this results in conviction, which is faith. Faith is not a quality of the heart or the mind. It is very clearly a quality of the intellect. It is to believe what you don't see, the result of which is to see what you believed in. The bird chirps early in the morning while it is still dark. He doesn't have an alarm. Because he has the faith, the light will come. The morning will come. The knowledge that we seek is so subtle. The goal is beyond the body, mind, and intellect. That is why we need faith. It is something that we just cannot perceive. It is said, man is what his faith is. And as his faith, so vision of life, which will determine his values, which will then percolate to his desires, thoughts, actions, which will then strengthen his belief. So faith is a tremendous source of strength and security. Everyone has faith. Some in money, some in power, some in a relationship, some in the higher. But faith is there. A student arrogantly told his guru, "Show me God, then I will have faith in his existence." The master replied, "When you see, you will not need faith. Faith is needed for what you don't know." So a true seeker needs to have faith in 5 things. The validity of the scriptures, that what the scriptures say is true. The guru, that he knows that he knows that truth and he will guide me to it. The means that are shown in the scripture and they are the way to the truth. In the goal that the supreme truth exists. And lastly, in himself, that he can reach the goal. I should not doubt my own capabilities. How do I develop this faith? Through satsang. Gain knowledge, apply logical thinking. Read about the lives of saints. Keep the company of other seekers. Start walking the path. Apply what we have learned. And at the end, it will come by the grace of the Lord and Guru. The first 4 come automatically when one joins a study class. A study class is something, it's a simply fabulous experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Coming back. Verse 34 not only gives us the qualifications of a true seeker, a student, but also of the Guru. Yes, even a Guru has qualifications. The Lord says the Guru should be a Jnani and a Tattvadarshi. He should be a Shrotriya and a Brahmanishta. Meaning, he should be well versed in the scriptures so that he can impart the knowledge correctly. And also a Tattvadarshi, he should have realized the truth for himself. He should have had that subjective experience of what he is teaching. One quality without the other is ineffective in guiding the student because just mere knowledge makes one only a scholar. And one who has experienced the truth but has not studied the Shastras will become silent because he will not be able to explain that experience to the seeker. So Krishna goes on to praise the knowledge of the truth. In verse 35, he says, knowing this, one will never get deluded again. One will see the oneness in all. In verse 36, he also assures us that no matter what the sin, even if we are the most sinful of all sinners, we can cross all the sins by this knowledge. So there's hope for all of us. In verse 39, he says, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. One with faith gains this knowledge, tatparaha, with the readiness to act on what has been learnt and understood. Shri Krishna's chapter by saying in verse 40 that if we keep doubting and are not ready to have faith, are not ready to start walking the path, then we will perish. By perish, again, he does not mean we will die or self-destruct. It just means that we will continue in this cycle of birth and death and will not realize our true nature as pure consciousness. And then he gives the clarion call of Uthishtha Bharata. this call is for Arjuna to stand up and fight. It is a call for all of us to rise to the challenges of life and to. It is a call to all seekers to realize their true nature and revel in the light of knowledge, Bharata. So let us all rise and awake to our true nature of Sat Chitanand, the pure consciousness that pervades all, and get out of this false identification that we have with the BMI. Hari Om.
Any questions?
Yeah, Ankita Agarwal,
Hari Om.
please ask.
Hari Om.
My question is, Brahman is eternal. He's the supreme truth. But we, even in spirituality, we keep saying, this is good, this is bad, do this, do that. Then that is still duality, right? We are still enforcing duality even when we are talking about spiritual scriptures.
Yes,
So
we
that-
are.
Yeah.
It is only a realized master who has realized the oneness with the individual and the totality, then will not see this duality. We are still on the way, on the path. So we will see this duality, but we need to keep that as our goal, that we need to attain that oneness.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
confirm that. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Arvind, please ask.
Hari Om. You had mentioned the most famous line in the Paritranaya Sadhuna Vinashaya Cha Dushkritam. Actually, the Lord says that He will make incarnations whenever the adharma is going on and the dharma will be established. But you see, in the world, we come across so many heinous crimes going on, so many adharmas taking place ceaselessly. So why is Krishna or anything and the Lord in the form of man not taking up this horrendous acts?
Okay, let me answer this in two parts. One is, yes, he did say he will come when there is adharma and to establish. I would look at it as maybe the adharma that we are seeing right now, which we think is really bad, is not bad enough for him to come down and take an avatar to sort it out. Number one. Number two is that I also did mention that when would he come? It's his free will. He decides. So that is also in his hands.
Okay.
It also
Thank you.
is important to understand that is Paritranaya Sadhunam. So Paritranaya Sadhunam means to protect the good or to answer the demands of the good people, people who want darshan of Bhagavan. So the point is, how many people want the darshan of the Lord? If people really want darshan of the Lord, Bhagavan's avatar happens, and many times it happens subjectively also. So a lot of factors go into this understanding whether avatar has to happen, when it will happen, how it will happen. Go ahead with the next one.
Mahesh ji, please ask. Yeah, Mahesh ji, you can ask, please.
Yeah,
You're unmuted.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Yeah. I just wanted a further clarification on the caste system that Puja Gurudev video. I have been seeing this video during this lockdown for at least 5 to 6 times now. I'm still, not able to comprehend it. I mean, and if you can please shed further light into that in relation to chapter 9 verse 32 verse where it's written Striyo Vaishyas Tata Shudras Te Pi Yanti Param Gatim. So I am trying to comprehend Puja Gurudev's talk on the caste system along with this verse as well. So please guide me if I'm wrong as well. I would just want more understanding on this matter.
In that case, may I request you to listen to chapter 9? And in case you still have further, if you're not able to let me ask you another thing. Is today's talk clear?
Yes, yes, very
Leave
much
9.
clear. Hari
Okay.
Om.
So may I suggest that you listen to chapter 9? And in case you still have further questions, I'll be happy to take it then. It's possible that after listening to chapter 9, that this doubt will be cleared because you're linking the two.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Hari Om.
Hari.
Hari Om Anjali ji.
Hari Om Manisha.
My question is कि जैसे आपने ये जो 12 practices बताए जिसमें हमने all perception organs को देने की कोशिश की संयम यज्ञ, लेकिन अगर हम perceive नहीं करेंगे और हम think नहीं करेंगे, so then how will we reach and where to draw that line? Because वो बोलते हैं कि clarity of mind होनी चाहिए, steadfastness होनी चाहिए, but that confusion is not going. So then what would you like to tell me about?
So when they are saying Sayam yoga and they are saying offer the sense organs into the fire of willpower, they are what is being said by that is you have to regulate what you're taking in. What you're taking in through the senses has to be disciplined. So if I have a choice of watching violent movies versus watching a biographical movie, what am I choosing? I need to regulate my senses from that perspective. Am I taking in tamasic information? Am I taking in rajasic information? Or am I trying to convert tamasic and rajasic into sattvic? The movement, the gradual movement should be to go into more sattvic intakes. So it doesn't say stop seeing and stop. So am I picking up an ordinary novel to read? Or am I picking up the life and times of a particular saint? Am I making my mind more sattvic or am I making it more rajasic and tamasic by my intake? So that is what is meant by Indriya Sanyam. I hope I've answered your question. I think we can do the Aarti now because I'm sorry I got a little extended.
We want to thank you, Anjali ji, for such a wonderful, insightful talk, which we thoroughly enjoyed. Can I request everyone to put their videos on? Because we would like to take a Zoom feed to immortalize this moment. Here you go. Who's going to take it? Kaun lega?
We need to take a Zoom feed.
Yeah, I'm taking one. Big smile, everyone. Hari.
Oh. Okay. Thank you, Vinit. Once again, Anjali, thank you so much for such an enlightening talk. On behalf of Chinmay Mission and Swami Swatmanandji, I would like to thank our Yajman for the day, Shri Vipulji Dalal. May Gurudev's blessings and grace be upon you. Thank you all for being a wonderful audience and hope to see you all tomorrow. Just one note that on Sunday, our session will begin at 5 p.m. Please make a note of this so that you don't miss an important session. If you have been inspired and wish to support the Chinmay Mission and its activities, please use the payment link that is shown on the screen and also posted on the Telegram link. Please join us for the Aarti. Shall I switch off my screen?
ॐ जय भगवद्गीते मैया जय भगवद्गीते हरिः कमलविहारिणि सुन्दर सुपुनीते ॐ जय भगवद्गीते कर्म सुमर्म प्रकाशिनि कामासक्तिहरा तत्त्वज्ञानविकासिनि विद्या ब्रह्मपरा ॐ जय भगवद्गीते निश्चलभक्तिविधायिनि निर्मलमलहारिणि शरणरहस्यप्रदायिनि सबविधि सुखकारी ॐ जय भगवद्गीते रागद्वेषविदारिणि कारिणि मोद सदा भवभयहारिणि तारिणि परमानन्दप्रदा ॐ जय भगवद्गीते आसुरभावविनाशिनि नाशिनि तमरजनि दैवी सद्गुणदायिनि हरिरसिका सजनि ॐ जय भगवद्गीते समता त्याग सिखावनि हरिमुख की बानी सकल शास्त्र की स्वामिनी श्रुतियों की रानी ॐ जय भगवद्गीते दया सुधा बरसावनि मातु कृपा की जय हरि बल प्रेम दान कर अपनों कर लीजय ॐ जय भगवद्गीते ॐ जय भगवद्गीते मैया जय भगवद्गीते हरिः कमलविहारिणि सुन्दर सुपुनीते ॐ जय भगवद्गीते ॐ जय भगवद्गीते ॐ जय भगवद्गीते बोलिए गीता मैया की जय
ॐ पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम